If you're a first-time homebuyer who's been sitting on the sidelines in Raleigh, North Carolina, I've got one thing to say to you. Stop waiting. Seriously, Zillow just ranked us the number 8 best large metro in the country for first-time homebuyers, and my buyers are definitely taking notice. Seriously, in the last 6 months, a whopping 75% of my buyers have been first-timers. And that's because right now, the conditions are better than they've been in years. More inventory, less competition, more negotiating power. But that trifecta doesn't stick around forever. So let me explain what's going on right now. But before I do that, a quick bit about me. My name is Matt Martin, and not only am I a Raleigh-based realtor, but I'm also a transplant to the Triangle region, originally from LA and New York City. I've helped tons of clients just like you do exactly what we did back in 2021 and relocate to the Triangle region of North Carolina. So if you're looking to do the same, I'd love to help you too. All right, back to the topic at hand. So Raleigh just landed at number 8 out of the 50 largest metropolitan areas in the country for first-time homebuyers. And to come up with this ranking, Zillow looked at 4 key factors: rental affordability, attainable housing inventory, competition, and the overall appeal of each market to those in the prime first-time homebuying age bracket. So how did Raleigh fare across these 4 categories to ultimately land at number 8? Well, one of the biggest hurdles for most first-time homebuyers is having enough money for a down payment on a house. So being in a city that allows buyers to save up money is hugely important to realizing that home ownership dream. And one of the best ways to save money is by not having to blow it all on rent. And this is where Raleigh really shines. In fact, Raleigh had the lowest rent to income ratio of any market in the top 10, sitting at just 18% of median household income. To put some real numbers behind that, the Raleigh-Cary Metro has a median household income of around $100,000 a year, or about $8,500 a month. And the typical rent across the metro sits somewhere in the $1,500 or $1,600 range, which works out to that roughly 18% figure. Now, for comparison, Jacksonville, Florida is at 23.1%, San Antonio, Texas, just over 20%, and St. Louis at 19.5%. You see, buyers here in Raleigh benefit from an incredibly strong job market that leans heavily into tech and life sciences, which means our median income here is higher than the national average. And while Raleigh has seen tremendous growth over the last few years, our apartment construction has actually kept pace with that demand, and sometimes even exceeded it, which means rent prices haven't skyrocketed the way you might expect. So when you pair higher than average incomes with reasonable rents, you get the perfect recipe for first-time homebuyers to be able to save money for that down payment. Now, I want to address something head on because I know what some of you are probably thinking. If rent is so affordable here, why bother buying at all? And that's a totally fair question, and I'm not here to argue that continuing to rent might make more sense for you. But the question we're looking at here isn't whether you should rent or buy, it's where are the best places to live if you do want to buy. And Raleigh is uniquely positioned to allow renters to save more on average than most of the other top 50 metros, which means you can get that down payment together faster than you might have thought. But what good is a large down payment if the homes you're looking at are too expensive to even qualify for? Well, that's the next area where Raleigh scored well. Zillow found that about 48% of homes listed in Raleigh are considered affordable for first-time homebuyers. But what does affordable mean here? Well, Zillow looked at whether a buyer's monthly housing payment, including mortgage principal and interest, property taxes, insurance, and any HOA fees, would be 30% or less of the median household income, assuming a 20% down payment. Now, I won't bore you with all the nitty-gritty numbers, but the median home price in Wake County right now sits at around $480,000. And you'll just have to trust me that the math works out if you're buying just under that median. But Raleigh wasn't the top performer here, and there are other cities on the list that have higher attainability, like St. Louis at 68% and Detroit at 65%. But those markets are cheaper largely because they lack the same job growth and quality of life that draws people to Raleigh in the first place. So here, you're not just buying affordability, you're buying into a market with real long-term upside. And one quick note here, since the survey looks at the Raleigh metro as a whole, that 48% figure is an average across the entire region. But first-time buyers typically aren't shopping in the priciest parts of the metro, like Cary and Apex. They're looking in places like Clayton, Fuquay-Varina, Wendell, Knightdale, and Garner, markets where affordability is even higher and new construction is booming. So first-time homebuyers' attainability in these areas is significantly higher. So Raleigh has cheap rent that allows potential buyers to save up, and then a high percentage of attainable homes for those buyers to make their dream a reality. But what good is all that if there's no inventory to choose from? Or worse, if everyone is vying for those same listings. And this is where I want to spend a little extra time, because this is the part of Raleigh's story that I think most people don't fully appreciate right now. The inventory and competition picture in the triangle has changed dramatically in the last year, and it's changed in favor of buyers. See, in Q1 2026, we had just over 7,600 active listings in the triangle, the highest we've seen in a first quarter since March of 2020. Over 7,000 new listings hit the market in Q1 alone, which was up 8% year over year. And days on market have stretched out to 39 days, which is the highest we've seen in a full decade. That means buyers have more homes to choose from, more time to think, and more room to negotiate than they've had in years. And speaking of negotiating, sellers are actually negotiating right now. We're seeing homes sell for an average of about 1.6% under asking price, and seller paid concessions, things like closing cost credits and repairs, are becoming much more common. If you were trying to buy here in 2021 or 2022, you know how different that sounds. Back then, you were lining up to make an offer and literally handing over your firstborn just to be told you hadn't won the house. But today, buyers are in a much stronger position. Now, Raleigh is no stranger to accolades, and this one doesn't surprise me either. The Triangle has been one of the fastest growing metros in the entire country for years, and for good reason. We've got a booming tech and life sciences economy anchored by the Research Triangle Park, RTP. We have 3 Tier 1 research universities, NC State, Duke, and UNC Chapel Hill, that draw talent from around the country. And we have a quality of life that's pretty hard to beat. We've got strong job growth, relatively mild weather, tons of outdoor space, a great food and culture scene, and home prices that, while they've certainly gone up from where they were 5 years ago, still look very reasonable compared to places like San Francisco, New York, or even Austin. So you're buying into a city that people want to move to, and that matters for long-term home value. So why did I say at the top of this video that you should stop waiting on the sidelines? Well, the conditions we're seeing right now, more inventory, less competition, sellers willing to negotiate, prices flat year over year, these are not permanent. They exist because buyer demand has been dampened by higher interest rates and general economic uncertainty. But when that changes, and it will, the dynamic will shift back to sellers, and it'll likely happen fast. We saw it in real time when rates briefly dipped below 6% at the end of February 2026, and buyers flooded back in almost immediately. And we all know what the market looked like a few years ago when rates were in the 2 and 3%. So I'm telling all my first-time homebuyers that now is the time to buy, while sellers are still willing to negotiate and inventory is still growing. It's a real and meaningful window, and it's the one Zillow essentially identified when they ranked Raleigh number 8. The market conditions for first-time buyers here are genuinely favorable right now, and the question becomes, are you going to take advantage of them or wait until the competition comes back? So what's this mean if you are a first-time buyer considering the triangle? Number 1, get pre-approved now. Even if you're not ready to pull the trigger tomorrow, knowing exactly what you can afford and having that pre-approval letter in hand puts you in a position to move quickly when you find the right home. In a market with 39 days on market, you have more time than you did a few years ago, but good homes in good neighborhoods still move. So being prepared can be the difference between getting the home and missing out. Number 2, focus your search in the right places. I've said this so many times, but the triangle is a big region, and not every part of it is equally accessible for first-time homebuyers. Towns like Clayton, Fuquay-Varina, Wendell, Knightdale, and Garner offer great value, strong new construction options, and they're where a lot of the first-time buying activity is happening right now. So understanding where you'll get the most for your budget and where the most negotiating room exists matters a lot. And number 3, use the negotiating room that exists right now. Sellers are more flexible than they've been in years. That means you may be able to negotiate not just on price, but on things like closing cost credits and repair allowances, all of which can meaningfully reduce your out-of-pocket costs at closing and lower your monthly payment. And a good agent who knows this market will know how to find and use that leverage. So there you have it. Raleigh was ranked the number 8 best city in the country for first-time homebuyers. And based on what I'm seeing on the ground here every day, that ranking really lines up with reality. The conditions for first-time buyers in this market are genuinely good right now. Question is, how long will that last? So what do you think? Does this match what you've been hearing about Raleigh? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're ready to kick off your home hunt here in the Triangle region, whether you're a first-time home buyer or otherwise, I would love to be your guide. You can reach me by phone, email, or text, and you can find all my contact information in the link below or by scanning this QR code right here with your phone. And if you liked this video, I have a whole catalog of others all about moving to, living in, and buying real estate in and around Raleigh, North Carolina. Here's another one here that you may like, so give it a click to keep on watching.